I'm sitting in a friend's living room because she's considering a big upgrade to her audio corner, and she's just staring at a box that says Fluance reference RT82. She's got a modest budget, a love for vinyl, and a tiny apartment that already feels cramped with a couple of Bluetooth speakers. I could tell from the look on her face that she's torn between I want the best sound I can get without breaking the bank and I don't want a system that takes up half the floor and then sits quiet most of the time. If you're in that same spot, the decision feels like a risky gamble. You could end up with a beautiful looking shelf that sounds amazing, or you could spend your paycheck on a set that leaves you wondering why you didn't just keep streaming. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through why the Fluance reference RT82 might be the right fit or not for you. First, let's talk about the core of the package: a 6.5-inch bookshelf speaker pair, a turntable with a built-in PA10 Phono preamp, an Ortofon OM10 cartridge, a 120W Class D amplifier, and Bluetooth connectivity, all wrapped in a natural walnut finish. On paper, this looks like an all-in-one solution for someone who wants both analog and digital playback without juggling separate boxes. In practice, that integration works well if your primary listening space is a room of about 150,200 square feet. The speakers deliver a clear mid-range that gives vinyl's warm tones a sweet spot, and the built-in amp has enough headroom to fill a modest living room without distortion. If you live in a small studio or have a dedicated listening nook, the combined footprint is actually an advantage. There's no need to hunt for a separate amp or a dedicated preamp for the turntable. Who should buy this? Think of anyone who already owns a collection of records and wants to step up from a basic platter, but isn't ready to start buying a separate receiver, separate speakers, and a dedicated phono stage. The RT82's integrated approach means you can drop a record, press play, and have the music fill the room, while still having the option to stream from your phone via Bluetooth. That dual nature is handy for households where not everyone is into vinyl. You can switch to a streaming playlist for a dinner party and then slide back to analog for a relaxed evening. If you're a budding audiophile who enjoys the tactile ritual of dropping a needle but also values convenience, this system hits a sweet spot. Who should skip it? If you already own high-end speakers or a dedicated phono preamp, you'll find the built-in components a bit redundant, and you might even feel limited by the 120W amp if you plan to drive larger floor standing speakers. Also, if your space is larger than a typical apartment, say a two-story house with a living room that can accommodate a larger sound system, you'll likely need more power and a wider soundstage than a pair of 6.5-inch bookshelves can provide. In that case, the RT82 could feel underwhelming after a while, and you might be better off purchasing separate components that can scale with your space. Now let's get down to the practical strengths. The first thing most users notice is the ease of setup. The turntable comes pre-aligned, the cartridge is already installed, and the speakers simply plug into the designated outputs on the back of the unit. No need to hunt for a separate phono stage or wrestle with complex wiring diagrams. You just place the speakers where you want them, place the platter on a sturdy, vibration-isolated stand, and you're ready to spin. This is a huge boon for anyone who isn't technically inclined or just wants to avoid a weekend of troubleshooting. The built-in Phono preamp does a solid job of bringing out the detail in vinyl. The Ortofon OM10 is a reputable cartridge that offers a balanced tone, and the integrated preamp's equalization aligns with the RIAA standard, so you're hearing the records as the engineers intended. In a real-world test, tracks that usually sound muddy on cheap turntables, especially bass-heavy jazz and classic rock, came through with a clean low end and articulate highs. The speaker drivers themselves are sealed, which means you get tighter bass response without the room mode issues that open-back designs often suffer from in smaller spaces. That sealed design also helps keep the overall sound consistent across different listening positions, a big plus if you tend to move around the room while listening. Another practical benefit is the Bluetooth capability. The system pairs quickly with both Android and iOS devices, and the latency is low enough that you won't notice any lag if you occasionally watch a music video while the speakers are playing. For people who like to have a single hub for both vinyl and streaming, this integration eliminates the need for an extra Bluetooth receiver or a separate smart speaker that could clutter your space. On the flip side, there are some weaknesses you should be aware of before you hand over your credit.